Tubers, welcome back for another adventure. Do you guys remember the Yamaha Warrior 350? It's kind of been dragged out back here for a while. I'd like to bring it into the shop and straighten it around. When I got it had a bunch of problems. I paid $500 for it from a guy that I've done quite a bit of business with over the years. So it had one catastrophic problem. It had thrown the chain, and you guys could see the damage around here, and it poked a hole in the case right there. Unfortunately, there's a bearing right on the other side of this, so one couldn't just smash epoxy in there. You would fill the bearing with epoxy, the bearing would fail, and ugly things would happen very quickly. So what I did is I ground down a bolt very carefully to very much mimic the way the hole looked, and put it in there and left enough of the top of the bolt so it wouldn't fall in, and then I epoxied it from the outside. So that took care of the oil leak. After we did that, it ran, we took it out for a ride, and I kind of parked it. Now, if you're familiar with the Yamaha 350, this is one noisy guy, especially when you have a straight pipe that blows hot exhaust right onto your leg, right? I mean, it is just mean. Way too loud. It's the kind of loud that after you ride it for 5 minutes, your fillings begin to hurt. I mean, that kind of loud. It's just deafening. So that's kind of why it got parked. Minor problems, right? The back tires are on backwards. It's missing the back brake. And the battery that came with it, though it was a good battery, it didn't fit into the hole very well. I just smashed that one in there for temporary. What we're going to do today is we're going to get this thing running much more properly. I mean, there's a bit of a change of things going on, and if it needs to be sold, I want to get it to the point where I could sell it without too much delay. So no, it's not for sale at this point, so don't ask. No, I'm not selling it now, but if I need to sell it, I want to get it to the point where I can. Okay, let's start out the easy place. These should be pointing in the direction of travel. And they're pointing opposite, so I got to swap the tires side to side. Easy enough to do, right? Unfortunately, they have different size nuts on these, 14 and 15. And they went through the trouble of tightening them down pretty good too. Well, the 14s are coming off. I hope and pray that those are not SAE bolts. Sometimes you get an all-terrain vehicle and you discover that an amateur worked on it. Just changing these back tires, I found two problems. Problem number one, they used the wrong hardware and they were a bolt short. One side only had 3 on it, so have to go back to the Japanese standard hardware, the metric stuff. The second problem is the offset's wrong. The way he had them on gave me the maximum width, so to speak. Right, that's when the tail of it is as wide as possible, but the tread is backwards and the valves are on the inside. I'd rather have it wide in the back. Well, I don't know. Maybe, you know what, I'm just going to put them on so that they're aimed directly. Sometimes you find these things, people have really hacked them up pretty good before you get to them. Oh yeah, he boogered the threads up. So I used a file to clean things up, and I have the right hardware. Things are coming on and off much easier. That took a lot longer than it should have, but I think it's correct now. Even the offset doesn't look too bad. I think that's just going to be fine. Next problem. I don't know how I drove this thing like that. I'm going to have to replace the fuel line. Okay, we got a fuel line Doesn't look like we have any leaks. I like the clear that you could see. I even smashed a filter into it. So that's all done correctly. The valve was off, no gas, turned the valve on, gas. So the valve's even working. And no drippy drippy. Couldn't be happier, right? Changing the battery, easy enough to do. Just make sure you're positive. Gets over to your starting solenoid, right? It's also not good to let your starting solenoid to be beating around like that, because your positive could rub up against the frame and get into trouble. One other thing I do, I always charge the battery, and I use one of those smart chargers, so it just peaks the battery up before I put it in one of these things. So I did that. Battery's ready to go. Chew on that, get yourself wound up and ride the heck out of this thing, I guess. Anyway, let's fire it up and see where we're going from here. So I'm going to fire this thing up. I'm going to leave the ankle burner exhaust system on there, the straight pipe exhaust system. Well, I guess it's got a bend on it. I'm going to leave the exhaust system it came with right on there. We're going to start it up and you're going to hear it. I'm going to have the camera in the tripod so you'll hear it as loud as it is. And then I'll show you what it's going to sound like with the new exhaust. Let's hope it starts easily. You know, sometimes these things get camera shy. Key on, choke on. Fuel on. Let's give it 2 seconds. So it should have fuel. So that's what it sounds like with the straight pipe exhaust, and that's what gets me complaints from a neighbor. So let's talk exhaust system. I looked at all my various homemade stuff there, and that's a Harley exhaust system, so I looked at that. Those are actually mufflers. They're not empty pipes or trumpets, right? Then I looked at all my pipe and more pieces, and I just decided, not that I'm selling this thing, but if I had to, it would sell better if it had a real exhaust system on it. Something with a brand name, something that somebody would actually be interested in buying. So with that, I bought this DG pipe. It was an eBay deal. 237 bucks if I recall. So between that and the battery, I coughed up about $300 for this thing relatively recently. But just look at the size of the pipe. This should breathe well. It's got the screen in it, so I won't spark up and start forest fires. Anyway, let's smash that on and see if that's better. This muffler really couldn't have gone on easier. I mean, I'm slightly tight right there, and up here is probably fine. Right there, slightly tight. So that might need to be trimmed a little, right? It might also be that the plastic isn't exactly where it should be, right? So anyway, you know, bolt right there. They include the bolt and the spacer. You can see they're nice and new, and it went on here. I'm taking an extra couple of seconds to talk about this because if you read the reviews, some people really kind of trashed the DG muffler and said it just wouldn't go on, and to me it looks like it couldn't go on any easier. So no, they don't sponsor me. I had to pay for that. All right. Let me set up the camera for the distance and all, then we'll give it a start. Let's hope it starts easy again. By the way, I checked the oil and can you hear me? If you can hear me, it's actually quieter than it was before. I actually like the sound of it. It sounds deeper, throatier, whatever you want to call it. Smoke. I don't like seeing smoke. Oh, alright. He's just burning off the exhaust system. Seeing smoke is bad, right? Yeah, it's just burning off the exhaust. I did check the oil. It's all good. I think it's just a matter of smashing the seat on it, smashing the GoPro on, and getting a ride out of this thing. So let's do that. Yeah, it seems like it's perfect. Let's get a ride. Here we go. So I originally paid, I think, $5 for this thing, and I just put another $300 into it. So just to give you guys an idea how quickly money disappears. If I had to guess, if this thing were mint, it would probably be a $2,500 all-terrain vehicle. It's far from mint, very far. I think first is down. Very far from mint. I don't know if I could get through there. Let's go around back. If I had to guess, it's worth $1,200 to $1,500. I probably, between fixing the hole and messing with the back wheels and all, I'd probably have somewhere, call it a day's worth of work. that borders mine in the back. It's actually 200 acres that not only is it for sale, but supposedly somebody has an option on it, and that somebody will not be identified. So I got to pull some connections and see if I can find out who. Because if you take the 25 or whatever and you add it to that 200, suddenly you have a lot of land. And the way the land's situated, suddenly you could start doing interesting things with it. Especially if one does cluster housing and then leaving a bunch of space wide open. Right. Things, they could actually do something with it. So I guess I just got to wait and see. The one good thing about big projects is it takes years. A lot of times it takes a lot of years before they get through all the approvals and so forth. So there we are. What do you guys think? I like it. I hope you guys do too. Anyway, so for the 5th time or whatever, got 800 tied up in this. If I had to sell it as is with no back caliper, dragging front brakes, I don't know, do I have melting plastic? Nope, plastic is good. It's worth $1,000 anyway, $1,200. So there we are. I want to thank everybody for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember, feet down, heads up. And when the parts come in for some of these other ones, we'll finish them up also. Bye now.